Call this meeting to order. This is the June 28, 2023 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 1 was the call to order. Item 2 is seat alternate to act if required. We have Carboni joining us on this evening. Item number 3, hearing of residents. I don't see anybody. Nobody? Any emails or texts or anything? Nothing. All righty. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. We have 2 items on that agenda tonight. Item A is the minutes from the June 14th, 2023 regular meeting. Item B, PLFP 2023-0152, consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Core 5 subdivision, an approximately 165-acre tract of land generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Scenic Drive and IH-10, also identified as parcel IDs 619013, 619006, 619017, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas. Commissioners, do either of those items need to be pulled for discussion? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
A motion to approve from Commissioner Ray. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Goldick, thank you. All right, there's no discussion on consent agenda items. I'll call for the vote, so please record your vote. All right, looks like all the votes are recorded. If you'll publish that, please. I'm not seeing that anywhere.
You have to.
Okay, so the apparently the technology is not, although I can see it here. I have to call for a voice vote, please. Start down here.
Aye.
And oh man, aye.
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 Aye. That's 7 ayes, none opposed. That motion passes. All right, moving right along. Item 5 is a public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing related to zone change requests and replats within this agenda. The public hearing will be open to receive a report from staff, the applicant, the adjoining property owners affected by the applicant's request, and any other interested persons. Upon completion, public hearing will be closed. The Commission will discuss and consider the application and may request additional information from staff or the applicant if required. After deliberation, the Commission is asked to consider and act upon the following requests and make a recommendation to the City Council if necessary. Item 5A is PLUDC 2023-0133. Hold a public hearing, workshop, and discussion and possible action to make a recommendation on amendments to Part 3 of the Schertz Code of Ordinances, Unified Development Code UDC, to Article 8, Section 21.8.4, home occupations. Sam?
Evening, Commissioners. PLUDC 2023-0133, amendments to Article 8 of the UDC Section 21.8.4, home occupations. Samuel Haas, Senior Planner. So to give you a little background here, we met on May 24th to discuss this originally, but home occupations, you know, they occur frequently in the City of Schertz, and with conversations with the Development Subcommittee and staff, we decided to research 8 other municipalities to see what their home occupation regulations were and decided to draft some for the City of Schertz. We originally met on May 24th to discuss this, and the Commission decided to make some minor adjustments, and we went back and we drafted those adjustments. And so the original proposal is here. I'll just go through some of these pretty quickly, but we added language permitting home occupations as an accessory use. We proposed home occupation, we allowed for greater floor area of the home occupation, 30% of the combined floor area, and it cannot exceed 600 feet. Retail sales are permitted as long as the item is produced on premise in conformance with the code. We added language clarifying home occupation business must have a permanent residence of home involved. Added language stating that only one home occupation business related vehicle is permitted. We allow for additional accessory structure use. Added language clarifying that no exterior storage or display may occur. We added language clarifying that a home occupation is an accessory use only. We gave a list of permitted home occupation uses and a list of prohibited, and then we also added language clarifying unlisted uses are prohibited. So the adjustments that were made with the comments in mind from the Planning and Zoning Commission were, we clarified what floor area meant in 2184B1. We stated that it is the enclosed floor area, rather that way it cannot be interpreted that, say, a patio or something would be considered. And then in 2184B9, we included language that prohibited exterior equipment storage. That was a concern as well. We added a couple of permitted uses, which I will touch on here in a second. We also clarified the garage sales section. That was a comment that the commission made. So we clarified the language there to be in conformance with our code of ordinances. And then we included language under 2184E in regards to an appeal process to make it easier for people to, if they dispute something that we don't consider permitted, maybe they disagree, we'll allow them to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So in the proposed permitted uses, basically we added 3 items. Mental health professional, that was something that we think is broad enough to allow for counseling, therapy, things along those lines. We included the term, we took out the term manicure studio and we included health spa. So we thought that this would sort of be broad enough to include like massage therapy as well as manicures, pedicures, things like that. And then we included pet grooming. And so we allow for pet grooming to occur. And in the red lines that I sent, that staff sent to in the agenda, pet grooming is permitted provided that no overnight kenneling activity is taking place and animals remain inside. And so this is the list of prohibited uses. It has not changed from the original proposal. And the amendments would provide added clarity and flexibility to home occupations, and therefore staff recommends approval to the amendments to the Unified Development Code as proposed and discussed. Are there any questions and comments?
All right, thank you, Sam. This is a public hearing. It is 6:08. And I will open the hearing for public comment. No stampede. Anyone? No? It's still 6:08 p.m. and we've closed the public input. Commissioners, over to you. I know, but we have to go through the motions.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Haas, on B11, it says that all home occupations may be subject to periodic inspections by the city. All home occupations are subject to inspection, right? It's not a question of you might be, it is you are.
I would say yes, you are.
Okay. And I might, if we might make a change to scratch maybe and put are.
Okay.
In there, and I think it's a good document. It's a good place to start, and we have to start somewhere. So this will be it, and more fun and games for P&Z if people come up with suggestions. But I wanted to just make a comment that says the permits expired on every December 31st. Half of staff is on vacation during December 31st, and I'm wondering, in the process of making all this happen, are we going to make sure that we have a process if you get 30 or 40 or 50 home occupations expiring on December 31st, what are we going to do? Or are we going to go back and call these people and say, do you still have it, or is it gone, or are we just going to let it go?
Okay.
I see this as an action process. I don't know if we've thought that through yet. Not we P and Z, we city staff.
They renew.
So I'm going to put Tiffany on the spot a little bit, just because you're more familiar with the permitting side. The home occupation permits right now expire, and we actively contact folks when they're getting close to expiration, correct? So if you can't
Okay.
hear Tiffany, so within City View, it's going to notify that their permit is getting ready to expire. It's typically 30, 45 days out. They're going to get a letter generated to them saying, your permit's about to expire. Do you want to renew? If you do, kind of here's the steps. So they'll get notified that probably at the beginning of December. So they have a whole month, to come in and do that
So
registration.
you guys have thought this through somewhat. Excellent, good. That's all I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Commissioner Bro, where was that word change you suggested?
It's on section B, number 11.
Okay, because I noticed further down, see it, section F3, inspection, unless that only applies to, anyway, okay, so we're going to change the may be to, I would suggest as a next code official, use the word shall.
Okay.
Well, no,
No, I think it's different.
let me look at it again. Ad has a mind of its own. Yeah, I think, in this case, yeah, I think or would be an, get this thing to work. There we go. Okay. Anyone else? I would suggest the dog grooming where you say all the animals will stay inside. Personally, I understand what you're trying to do, but they need to go outside.
Right.
So, and where did I see it here? 21.8.4B10, a home occupation shall produce no offensive noise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I'm not sure we need to, I would prefer remove that the dogs, the animals remain inside. I'd prefer to remove that.
Okay.
And if it becomes a nuisance, we handle that under B10.
Okay.
Well, hang on, this is a group up here. So what are the?
Provided they're fenced.
Yeah. So I'm sure the idea was to not bother the neighbors, dogs barking. all
Correct. That
kind
was
of
the intent.
stuff. But, and then what? Does it say how many they can do at one time in here?
It does not, no.
So I'm just thinking, you get 2 or 3 of them, they're out back playing, or the squirrel runs through the yard. But I hate to set it up to where, and realistically, I don't think we'd enforce a thing like that unless it became a nuisance. So, come on, help me out here, guys.
But doesn't the city already have a number of animals you can have in a household anyway?
That, I don't have the code on me right now, but that is correct. You're only allowed
I want to say it's
I wanna
three.
say-
three
Yeah.
dogs of different species, something along those lines. There's things that regulate breeding, pet
Right.
breeding, so
Right.
that kind of, there's other sections of the code that would sort of relate to that.
I think what we want to do is prevent, and it already says, provided that no overnight kindling activity is taking place. So I think that's what we don't want to have. But if I have a couple of dogs and I'm doing some grooming and somebody won't pick them up until they get off work, yeah, if I put them outside at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and they come up and pick them up later in the evening, I think that'd be okay. I think what I wouldn't want next door is a kennel.
Right.
For sure, I wouldn't want that. So I think it'd be okay just to drop that "and animals remain inside" part.
Okay.
I wouldn't have any heartburn with that.
I have a question. So if someone were to come in and apply for permitting for that particular type of business, is there something specific to, okay, they're applying for this type of permit, so here's what you're allowed to do and not to do, or does it all fall under this
Yeah, they would
UDC document?
come in for a home occupation. This is the proposed use, and then we would, essentially look at this section to make sure that they're in conformance with everything. So.
I have one more question. Is this permit only if you're having clients or customers come to your home? So say prior to having a brick and mortar, I was a real estate agent working from home. Is that, you're supposed to have a permit to do that? Or is it only if people are coming and going?
So under what we have drafted here, you could apply. We would encourage you to apply for a home occupation permit, yes. But that use is permitted for a home occupation.
But again, in my mind, the overall purpose for this permitting is to limit neighborhood nuisance, and so if someone, even though they could, home office is considered a home occupation, who would ever know as long as nobody's showing up?
Right.
But that brings another question. Is there a penalty for not having a home occupation?
So I would say that would probably fall under the code enforcement side, and I don't have the specific language in front of me, but
It would just probably, I guess it would be a violation of city ordinance.
Right.
Typically.
having a home occupation without a permit, yeah.
Reinforcements.
So me and Brian are just chatting about this for a second. So technically, it would be a UDC violation. We have the ability to charge $2,000 for a fine, subject to you being not in conformance with the UDC if you were operating your business or breaking any of the rest of these regulations that are proposed out of the UDC.
Anyone else? No? All right, well, what we're looking for here is a recommendation to City Council. We have some options again here. We can recommend approval. We can recommend denial. We can recommend approval with the changes or amendments that we've discussed this evening, or we can postpone it to another meeting and allow staff to make those changes and bring it back to it. I think those are kind of your choices.
I make a recommendation to approve PLPP 202-30133 with the few amendments we discussed this evening.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Goldick to recommend approval as amended this evening to City Council. Have a second?
Second.
Where was that? Commissioner Ray? Any further discussion, questions for staff? All right, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed. That motion passes. Thank you. Item 7, workshop, discussion and possible action in relation to UDC Section 21.4.3. Notice requirements specifically in relation to public hearings, notification sign.
Commissioner, we have a 6A, yes.
What did I just do here? That's right, I skipped over, yeah. We were working on 5 and I wrote it all down on 6. All righty, so it's item 6. PLPP 2023-0139, consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for the Palapas John subdivision, an approximately 3.5 acre tract of land located approximately 250 feet west of the intersection Schertz Parkway and IH 35, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, parcel ID 64689, 64677, and 64687.
PLPP 2023-0139, Palapas John subdivision, preliminary plat, Samuel Haas, senior planner. So the subject property is outlined in green on your screen there. Just to the east is Schertz Parkway, that is I-35 right there to the north. So the proposed preliminary plat is 3.5 acres. They are proposing to plat 2 commercial lots. Currently, the property is zoned apartment multifamily residential district R4 and general business. So here is the plat exhibit. I will start out by saying that this skinny strip right here is the R4 zoning district, and then basically everything outlined here will be the general business. So it's going to be 2 lots. They are getting access from the I-35 frontage road and then also from Schertz Parkway. They are having a 24-foot access easement that actually goes into the Schertz State Bank and Trust lot, and that to an existing access onto Schertz Parkway that's there already. The property is serviced by it's going to be serviced by an 8-inch sanitary sewer line as well as an 8-inch water line. It'll be serviced by the City of Schertz for water and sewer, CCMA for treatment, CPS, AT&T, and Spectrum. The preliminary plat is consistent with the applicable requirements, ordinances, and regulations for this property. The preliminary plat has been reviewed with no objections by the Fire Engineering, Planning, and Public Works Department. Therefore, staff recommends approval of PLPP 2023-0139 Palapas John subdivision preliminary plat.
Mouthful. All right, thank you. Commissioners? All right, I'll start out here. Number one, I still wonder, you know, we discussed in the pre-meeting yesterday morning the no access easement, or the no access easement, yes, where the property has access to 2 arterials. And I thought we solved that problem by the fact that the driveway connects and runs through Schertz Bank and Trust, but does that, I'm not sure that negates the UDC requirement for the 1-foot non-access easement. I know it's a technicality, but
So I would just say that as a staff policy decision, it was determined, right, Schertz Parkway, if the Los Palapas plat wanted to come and get an access drive on that kind of finger piece that they have on a Schertz Parkway, our engineering department would either approve or deny that driveway access point. Since they have the access off of 35, they have that cross-access easement, as Sam mentioned, into Schertz Bank and Trust, they would not be granted an access onto Schertz Parkway from that location. So rather than having a non-access easement on the plat forever, the City of Schertz controls it's a city of Schertz street, controls whether there is an access granted or denied, regardless of there being that 1 foot non-access easement. So rather than having an additional easement on the plat, that will be there forever, which we have seen, and we've brought plats before the commission and items to city council to remove some of those on other plats. The policy decision was made to just not require it if it's a city of Schertz street that we control the access anyway. Now, you will see on some plats, TxDOT still does require 1 foot non-access easement when it's on a TxDOT roadway because they're just dedicating or just agreeing to access points in certain locations. So sometimes you will see the 1 foot non-access easement on TxDOT roadways, but we no longer do it on city of Schertz roadways. So it's probably something we need to clean up in the UDC, but ultimately the city of Schertz would still be the one to approve or deny that access point.
All right, thank you. Makes sense, thank you. Something I didn't think about until, I typically scan through these memos and I don't usually read every word. I'm a little, so lot one, what we're creating here is lot one and lot two, both of which are commercial lots.
Correct.
Lot two doesn't pose a problem, but you look at, as you pointed out, the back side of lot number one is R4,
Correct.
not GB. So how does that jibe with a commercial installation?
So the permitted use table is still applicable here. There are allowed residential uses on that R4, but also there are dimensional and design standards that come into play. So in order to construct something in R4 or build something in R4, the minimum lot size has to be 10,000 square feet. It has to have so much, frontage width and things like that. So it would not, in a practical sense, it's an undevelopable portion in that current zoning district. So they still can meet all the dimensional and design standards in the UDC with those two lots under GB in the zoning district. Does that answer your question?
Well, in a way, but so what you're telling me then is, assume I want to build a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything, if that line runs straight across, what, about maybe 30 feet wide?
About, yeah.
So when I go to build and I bring my site plan in to show you my restaurant, what, if anything, can I put in that 30 feet? Can I use it for parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how, because, well, I have to go back and look at the permitted use tables.
Well, there's setback in commercial lots, right? Was that 25?
Mm-hmm.
So 25 is going to be a setback. That leaves,
And do they need a landscape, are they gonna need a landscape buffer and,
So that is determined between lots, and so it's on the same lot.
okay, so staff is telling the commission that zoning will not be, correct?
They will not be able to construct their proposed, in your situation, restaurant in that area of this lot.
And I would say that there are lots and properties all over the city of Schertz that have split zoning.
I couldn't quite hear that.
Oh, sorry. Speak in the mic, right? We tell y'all all the time, speak in the
No,
mic.
well, it's partly that and it's partly this, so.
So I was just gonna say, Sam hadn't mentioned it, but there are properties all over the city of Schertz that are both platted lots or unplatted land that have split zoning. So this isn't an uncommon thing. And as Sam mentioned, in your example, the proposed restaurant, if that's what's gonna go here, it could only be in that general business portion, but the driveway, parking, landscaping, all those other requirements could be in the R4 zoning
Okay.
portion.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
do we have any idea what they plan for this? Just for grins?
I think the hint is in the name of the subdivision.
Ooh.
But,
Another,
yeah. But again, I have to remind the commissioners that it's not about a project. It's about a plat. All right, well, if we have no other comments or questions, action on this item is within our authority. We can approve, we can deny, we can approve with conditions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
related to item PLPP 2023-0139, the Palapas John subdivision, I recommend approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Broad, where'd the second come from?
Me.
You. Commissioner Goldick. Right. I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed. That motion passes. Now it's number 7. All right, Commissioners, let me preface this. I asked for this to be placed on the agenda after our meeting where we considered the R4 zoning out on Hillbrook, Southern Schertz. There were a couple or three of the residents that made comments about the notification sign, and well, I told them we would look into it. Well, that's what we're doing this evening. That's why it's here. Emily?
So good evening, Commissioner. As Commissioner Outlaw said, this is for UDC Section 2143, which is the section in relation to public hearing notices, and specifically want to talk tonight about signs. Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. So as some background, back in 2017, City Council adopted Ordinance 17S42, which is the current UDC language that if you pulled up the UDC, this is what you would find right now, that we require a public hearing notice sign to be placed by the applicant a minimum of 11 days prior to the scheduled public hearing. So what that really means is when staff sends out the 200-foot public hearing notice to all the property owners in that mail order, we require the applicant to come to the City of Schertz, pick up a public hearing notice sign and an H-frame, metal H-frame to place that sign, go out to the subject property, place those signs, send pictures of the signs placed back to the City of Schertz so we have proof that they have been placed. Now, it is the responsibility of the applicant to place those signs, ensure that they remain in good condition. If they're vandalized, stolen, whatever, they're required to come back to the City of Schertz and get a new sign. So that's the code language that was adopted in 2017. So between 2017 and 2021, so when we initially created the public hearing notice signs, P&Z decided on this sign, which I think if we look at it right now, there is a lot of information on here. So, right, it's public hearing notice, you have your case number, existing proposed zoning, where the meeting's gonna be held, the P&Z meeting date and time, the City Council meeting date and time, and then the planning phone number, the City of Schertz website. It is a lot of information for someone to try to see and read theoretically while they're driving past a property. But this is what we used from 2017 to 2021. You can see it's 18 by 24 plastic, made by the City of Schertz sign shop for us. It's corrugated metal plastic that is put in the ground with one of these beautiful metal H-frames that we get from our code enforcement team when they do their bandit sign runs. They come and get the metal H-frames for us, which is great. So in 2021, in 2021, we had a very similar conversation. Residents were concerned about the information on the sign, that it was difficult to read while driving by. It was causing people to have to stop, get out, maybe walk a little bit to see the sign. So the commission decided to have a meeting very similar to like what we're talking about right now to make changes to that sign. From that conversation, we made this sign. Still 18 by 24, still made by the City of Schertz sign shop, still the same corrugated plastic put in with a metal H-frame by the applicant, everything that I mentioned earlier, exactly the same process for this sign. But you'll notice we did change, we made it red, we made red text to try to make it more visible, catch people's eyes, took away a whole bunch of the information, tried to kind of scale it down. So just the case number, the proposed zoning, the public hearing date, so we would list the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing date on here. And when I say we list, we literally take a black fat Sharpie and just write on here before we give to the applicant. The Schertz website, our phone number again, and then the commission requested that a QR code at that time be added to these signs. If you scan that QR code right now, it takes you to the City of Schertz website, which in 2021, the other modification that we made was to start listing the public hearing notices on the City of Schertz webpage under news and events. So if you go to the main homepage under the kind of the news flash that kind of rotates, for lack of a better word, you will see if there's a public hearing notice, that news flash on there. You can read the whole description of what was sent in the mailers. Typically, we include a link that also has the notice map, the aerial, any other kind of information. So for instance, the villas, when that public hearing notice went on the website, you could see the full villas PDD on there as well for the residents to be able to get more information. We're telling them to go to the City of Schertz website. We should probably have something on there for them to see. So in preparation for tonight, Daisy did a whole bunch of research, so thank you, Daisy, for doing a bunch of target research on the public hearing notice signs. So the first one I want to talk about is Frisco. I know the picture's a little dark. That's the example we could find. It is a 4x4 sign that the property owner or applicant orders from a designated sign company that Frisco, does business with, that has their logo, exact specifications. It's a two-sided 10mm coroplast sign. They use metal or wood post. They require one sign adjacent to each street frontage. The property owner or rep posts that sign prior to the first public hearing, and then the property owner is required to remove that sign. And if we look at it, it's got the Frisco logo, notice of proposed zoning change, it's got a project number, but that's really it. Directs them to the website with that project number. The next one is McKinney, so you'll see a very similar sign. It's 4x4. Again, the property owner applicant is required to purchase that sign from a sign company. The applicant's required to install that adjacent to the right-of-ways. They're responsible for maintaining, providing that photo proof, and for the removal. And on the McKinney sign, there's even less information. So it's not property specific, it's just their logo, notice of, the public hearing, and then the QR code for their website. This is Pflugerville's. They charge a fee of $25 per street frontage for their signage. And again, not a whole lot of information on there. You can see that they use it for both subdivision variances and change in zoning. This is San Antonio's, which if you compare the size, and you can see the metal H-frame in that, kind of lower left picture, very similar to our size, except it's yellow. A staff member does post the sign on the property, not the applicant, so they do get a staff member to go onto the property and post it and take photos. Again, plastic on that metal H-frame, English on one side, Spanish on the other, and you can see they probably just write in with a black Sharpie like we do. So this is Cibolo and then Temple's. So you can see Cibelo's, a lot of information. They do charge $65 for public hearing notice signs. And then Temple, again, not a lot of information, just that there's a proposed zoning case and to basically call their division. So kind of leading into the discussion questions, right? So the things we kind of need to talk about. The size of the sign, do we want to stay with that 24x18? Do we want it to be larger, like some of the examples of 4x4? And if we do want to go larger, does that mean we still want to try to get the sign shop, which currently makes our signs for us? They cost about $2 a piece for the sign shop to make. If we go with something larger, obviously the cost is going to be higher. And again, where does the planning division try to store a bunch of 4x4 signs in our offices, right? Do we go with yellow or another color? And I have an example that I'm going to show you in a little bit. Or do we stay with the white? Do we stick with, all the information that's provided here? Or do we want to reduce the amount of information so maybe people just notice the sign, know to go to the website, they're not trying to read anything? If we change the style, do we need to change how we're installing them in the ground? Do we need to start using, metal stakes or wood stakes? If we go by a 4x4, are we then talking about, Sam getting out there with a T-post driver and putting T-posts in the ground for us? And then sign installation. This was a big one. when we started the public hearing notice signs in 2017, that we wanted the applicant to post that sign. We stayed consistent with that in 2021, strictly due to the fact the applicant is going onto their property, and you're not getting a staff member to go onto someone's private property to place a sign. So as the planning division, we were talking about it, trying to come up with ideas on what we could potentially do for a sign to maybe make it easier for the residents. So we came up with a mock sign. It's very bold, changing it to yellow. Not a lot of information, right? But how can you miss notice of zone change pending, go to Schertz.com. I think it would catch people's eyes, and they're not trying to read information. They're just, it's catching their eye. It's directing them to, to Schertz.com. Now, I will say Tony and our GIS department put this together for us. So it's a little larger, right, if you think about the 18 by 24. So do we need to go something bigger, or can we use that same message just on this size and still get, the same point across? Just things to talk about. I can Vanna White any of the signs you would like me to. Yeah, there you go.
I was sitting here thinking maybe you could put them on the chairs. I think this probably doesn't matter which side you put them on, the podium's going to get in somebody's way.
No, space. There you go.
That's your presentation?
That's my presentation. I'm happy to go to any of the examples if y'all want to look at any of the examples for more detail.
Commissioners?
I like the yellow sign.
Oh, I was, excuse me, Judy, I was just going to say real quick that this whole sign thing was a Planning and Zoning Commission initiative.
Yep.
It's not required by law. We were doing zone changes, and the state requires a mail notice to everyone within 200 feet. And, we started to see whole communities or whole subdivisions. And yes, this zone change probably impacted them as much as it did the 200 feet people. So this was our way of trying to inform more people. I'm sorry. So, yes. You like yellow.
Yeah, I think that's short to the point. It's easy to see. If someone's driving by, they're going to know. And if they know what road they're on, they're going to go look it up, if it affects them personally. So I think to me, that's perfect. It's eye-catching, and I think it's enough. Is there more than one placed on each property?
So the UDC doesn't require a certain amount. It's kind of up to staff's discretion. So for example, Hillbrook had 3 zoning signs placed, but the FM 3009 had 1 sign. The villas at Bluebonnet Ridge, since it was fronting on Country Club and Columbia, had 2 signs on Country Club and 1 on Columbia. We try to make sure if it's on multiple street frontages, there's 1 on each. Chairman Outlaw mentioned yesterday, what about like Schertz Station at Cibolo Valley Drive and 35? We had multiple signs on Cibolo Valley, multiple signs on 35, trying to get, enough attention.
Ma'am?
Yes, sir.
I think we've already accomplished one thing that we need to be doing, and that's using technology. You're posting it on our website, and in the future, more and more and more stuff is going to go on there. That's where people go to look for stuff first. So if I want to find something, I go to Google. Google sends me to your website, and I find it. As far as the sign, color matters. That's why our street signs are red, yellow, they're bright, they're neon, and so if you can't see that, you're not coming to this meeting because you can't drive. So, bottom line, I think I concur with her. The yellow one's good. I like the red on that because red always catches your eyes. That's why, roses that are red cost more. Let's be honest, right? So, I think at the end of the day, the nail on it.
I have something to say as well. Not too long ago, there were several white signs on Main Street, and they were all code violation for like high grass. But you're going by so fast, you don't really know what they are, but you just see the one word violation. So immediately you know that there's something going on there. So I think having a different color is something that's going to stand out. If it's like this and you're driving really quickly, I mean, unless you see zoning or public hearing,
Yeah,
you might just think it's just a
violation.
violation of some sort or a request for some sort of licensing or permitting, yeah.
I also like the yellow. I think it stands out. I think it will definitely catch people's attention. And on the signs that we currently have, I've noticed just driving by a couple of them, after it rains, everything's kind of faded, they start to fall down. So I think that that one's just more straight to the point. It's actually printed on. We don't have to worry about like words falling off later.
Yep.
And then also, quick question, just want to know who is responsible for picking up the signs currently?
So currently, the applicant is responsible for picking them up. And we know this is an ongoing problem that we tell the applicant, hey, your zone change is over through city council, you need to go out and pick up your signs. It is a struggle. So it is something that we are actively working with our code enforcement officers, that when you're driving out, doing other bandit sign runs or just in the area, we're telling them via email, this zone change is over. When the next time you're in this area, can you please pick up our notice sign?
Okay, do you think that if we added a fee and we were the ones that actually placed the signs, then we could include the pickup as well so that we can make sure that they're all taken care of? Or do you think that that's too much for us to take on?
So I don't think, I think it's kind of a twofold question, right? So the first question is, does the commission feel that staff should be installing the signs?
No,
No.
no.
Okay, so I would say the removal, it's something they're doing, code enforcement is doing on their daily runs. It's not something they're making an active trip just for that. So it's not something I feel like we should charge a fee for. But when we start getting to fees, if we're comfortable with the yellow sign, but maybe this size or even this size probably still can be created by our sign shop. I don't want to speak for Public Works, but I'd want to make sure, hey, this is the kind of the new template that we're looking at. Is that something sign shop can still create for us? And if it is, and it's still nominal, $2 to $4 per sign, probably something that, we don't want to start charging a fee for. But if we were going to go to this larger, 4 foot by 4 foot, we might want to talk about, how does the city, make up some of that cost difference?
Well, but if you charged a fee, even a reimbursable fee, then either they pick it up and bring it back to us for their reimbursement, or they've paid for our labor to go out there and do their work. I like the yellow one, by the way. Keep it simple. They don't need to know all the other, they can go on the website.
The other benefit I see is that's reusable, not a specific, so you give it to the next guy.
Yeah, if it
Decent
stays in
shape.
good shape. Mhm.
So that size, what is that, 2 by 2 or, anyway?
I think Tony said it may be a little larger than a 2 by 2.
So-
It's like almost 2 of those signs together with a little bit extra.
So could we still do the H frame on that? Or are we gonna have to maybe 2 H frames? I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of the Frisco sign. I really like that one. But, yeah, that and the McKinney sign. But installation of that sign has gotta be a real, I mean,
That's a
I've
post
driven those T-rails
Yeah.
with a T-post driver. And getting them in isn't as much work as it is getting them back out again. So as much as I like that sign, I think it's probably overkill. Is there a fee to request a zone change?
There is. So I was going to mention that even our smallest, so the zone change fees go by acreage, and even our smallest zone change fee, which is I think 0 to 2 acres, is $650. So no matter what, they're at least paying $650 for the zone change process. So they are already paying a fee to request this.
The main complaint from the last time somebody complained about this was they had to come to a screeching stop in the middle of traffic and get out of their car and walk in the weeds and get bit by mosquitoes and get hit by cars. Doing this, you get rid of all that. You took away all the information. I think it's good enough. Let's not overcomplicate it. if it costs the city $4 or $5 to make a sign, it's cost of doing business, make the sign, and stick it up however it needs to be up, and make the applicant do it. They're out there all the time anyway, you're not. You'd have to make a special trip. I would assume the applicant that wants to change it is out there doing surveys and all kinds of other stuff. So the only suggestion I would have is to make it more prominent on the website somehow. Like if you go to news and events right now, you have to wait for everything to scroll by. And then the only thing up there now is says notice of a public hearing. It, you know, really doesn't catch my eye, but you put that on the website, I think it'll catch somebody's eye and they'll be able to see it. Just make it, you're gonna get complaints no matter what. We're gonna get complaints no matter what. We can make 50 signs and somebody's not gonna like it and stand up back there and make a complaint. That's fine. But the only suggestion I have is somehow get creative and make it more prominent on the website.
And that's definitely something we can speak to public affairs about. Maybe they, you know, maybe it's creating its own landing page, or and if we go that route, maybe it's like you see here, right? It's mckinneytexas.org/notices. It's schertz.com/notices, or you know, something like that. We can definitely speak to public affairs about doing that and making that public hearing notice more prominent.
Yeah. And you know, and like Mr. Outlaw said before, we didn't have any signs, so we're getting better.
Hi, Ms. Delgado. Is there a reason that the QR code was from that? I noticed it was there.
So I think the thought process is, if we leave the QR code on it, we're asking residents to stop and get out of their vehicles to go and scan the sign, right? When realistically, like, for example, the 3009 zone change that just recently went through the commission, do we really want residents to try to stop on 3009 or have to try to find some side street and then, you know, hike to go scan the QR code just to go back to the website that they can already see?
As long as you have EMT out there on 3009,
Yeah, right.
you're okay.
It's crazy.
Are you affiliated at all with the Schertz magazine? I know it's a city publication.
So I will say that the planning division, we are responsible for doing like the quarterly Coming Soon Now Open magazine article. We do several articles throughout the year in the magazine.
Well, my suggestion is maybe having a section that says public notices, and it's a QR code in the magazine. It could be a small ad, and so they can, whoever wants to know what's coming up, you know, future development or future zoning changes for City of Schertz, they can click on that and it'll take them to whatever hyperlink, you know, to the website. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, we can definitely talk to public affairs about that as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the timeliness. But it might be something to look at. Roderick, did you have some more? Yeah, I just want to chime in with Commissioner Bro, because those are my thoughts, that right now, yes, they're on the website, but they're down there in the news scroll. They're not, you know, it's possible if you're looking for a zoning change, you're going to scroll down there, it's not up, and you start, so you never get to it. I think that sign over there does, it's short to the point, you can drive by it, you see zone change, even if all you see is zone change, and it should click that, well, let me go to the website and see. I would hope that the sign shop can continue to make those for you. And then I would really, I don't want the or I would not like the installation of the sign to become too much of a burden on anybody. So that would be my only, you know, I'm trying to remember, again, going back to my campaign days. Well, I either had the small ones, because the big one was 4 by 8. So what's that? So 2 by 2 was probably the smaller one.
And it might be something, so the way that they work, never used one of these signs. So on two ends, right, so the top and the bottom with this style, there's just basically holes, and we shove the metal H-frame, you know, picks into that. So potentially, you know, you think this side here, right, on the big yellow sign, we might be able to fit almost 2 H-frames and then really, you know, get it in the ground.
Take that sign, turn it sideways, and set it in front of the yellow one. See, would that be big enough? Yeah.
So consensus, we like this size.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so where do we go from here? How do we proceed with this? I think the consensus is we like your
Everybody likes
design
this
over
one. We
here.
like the way that it looks, the wording,
Yes.
yellow. So I think from there, it's a conversation between me and the sign shop to see, you know, if that size is feasible. It may be a little different, right? We used a piece of foam board that we had. So it might be a little different, but definitely bigger than what we have currently. So I'll work with the sign shop on that, make sure that they can do the yellow. But if everybody's comfortable with that style, we will move forward with that. Now, I will tell you that in the meantime, working through the sign shop, not sure that they have, you know, the yellow vinyl and all of that. We have about 20 of those zone change pending signs sitting behind one of our planning doors. We are going to continue to use those until, you know, obviously the new signs get created.
Okay, so my question was, do we have to formalize this?
Nope.
It's just we're not changing requirements, we're just changing what the sign looks like, and we can do that without, doesn't need to go to council or,
Since you're not modifying the UDC, it's strictly just a template that we provide to the sign shop. So what we did, you know, in 2021, we had a workshop, we got direction, we came back with several different templates, and then you selected the one. But if everybody's comfortable with this one, we are going to run with that and get it moving.
well, you know, a certain assistant city manager who remain unnamed, he's famous for saying, well, we'll try it. If it doesn't work, we can change it. So commissioners, are we all agreed to go ahead and try the new yellow sign?
Perfect.
And I can't see him, but I know he's hiding over.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you very much, Emily. Hopefully, well, like I say, we'll see. And if you could, maybe just as it progresses, just maybe during staff announcements, give us an update on what the sign shop said. Okay, thanks. Okay. So, item 8, requests and announcements. Request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. Anybody have anything? Announcements by commissioners. Announcements by city staff. Ooh, we have something. Cool.
Good evening. So as a reminder, this is an announcement, and so if there's any questions regarding the following site plan, I'd be happy to answer them after the meeting. So staff has approved a site plan for the Verde Enterprise Business Park, Unit 10B, Lot 7, Block 12, for an extended stay America Hotel. The lot area is 2.5 acres with a building area of 40,000 square feet. Thank you.
Hotel Row up there, good. All right, item 9, information available in the P&Z Commission packets, just gives you the current status of projects that we have sent forward to City Council. And item 10, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 6:59.